I was thinking of about having coffee, and for some of you know me, some of you don't. First of all, I'm Christine Keith, your women's ministry director. Forgot to say that again. I love coffee, like a lot, and so much. I was thinking of this little funny story this morning, how much I do love coffee, and you'll get to know me a little bit more about. Get to know that more about me. It's almost ridiculous. I was thinking about how at Christmas time, when my girls were younger, my husband and I they would be downstairs. They would be ready to open their presents and be all excited. And we didn't let them do anything until we made the coffee and had it in our cup. I know, yeah, that sounds bad. But just saying, that's how much I love coffee. And then it was a good time after that. It really was. So I had to be awake for that. So speaking of being awake, if you need to get up and get coffee or tea or anything, snacks, we have that out to the right. Feel free to get up and get anything at any time. So we want you to feel comfortable, not hungry, your stomach not growling, and just be fully caffeinated if you need to be, like I do. No, we're really glad you're here. Welcome. And I just want to say a couple of things. We have more women here this morning than we did last night, which is great. I'm super excited about that. And just a couple of things. We have restrooms to the left. As you go out these doors, we actually have exit doors on each side to use. And you just go out those to the left, down the hall a little bit. There's restrooms down there. And then I said where the snacks are, there to the right. I kind of feel a little bit like a flight attendant as I'm going like this and this. Yeah, I actually wrote a report one time when I was really small and said that I wanted to be a flight attendant. But now that I've actually, been on planes several times, I'm like, God bless those flight attendants. I could not do that job. So anyway, we're excited for what we have this morning. Oh, I almost forgot to say one more thing. Unless you were eating and drinking, we do ask that you wear your mask while you're in the building. We just want to keep everybody safe, and we'd appreciate you doing that, and the social distancing. Actually, we're saying physical distancing, but we would appreciate that just to keep everybody safe. I guess with that, I'm going to pray for us, and then I'm going to introduce our speaker. God, thank you for this time. We just set it aside this morning. I pray that we would open our hearts to hear from you. I pray that we would be able to just rest in this time, in this place, and in your presence. We know you are here. You invite us to be with you. And I pray that we can just lean in and be with you this morning. In Jesus' name, amen. So I get the privilege again to introduce my great friend, Jan Brauer. I said a little bit last night about, some of the things that she does is gifts, whatever, pastor, teacher, leader, speaker, OB nurse. I mean, she's done it all, kind of. But I didn't say a couple of cool things about my friend Jan, is that she windsurfs, she kayaks, she skis, she does it all. She's like, I don't even know what that's all about. We're from the same town, and I haven't done any of those things. So it's really fun. She does all those things. And the other thing that's really neat about Jan, a fun fact, is that she loves Disneyland. And I happen to relate to that. I'm a big Disneyland fan. And so we have that in common. But really, truly, one thing I want to make sure that you all know about Jan is that her heart for the Lord and his word is like none I've ever come across. She somehow is just so gifted. The Lord's gifted her to make the Bible come alive. And I've learned so much from her over the years. So I am thrilled that she gets to come and teach all of you, and you get to see that as well and experience that. And then the other thing is that she has taught me so much about what it means to truly love God and love others. She does it really, really well. And so I am just thrilled that she gets to come and be our speaker this morning. Would you give a warm welcome for Jan Brauer?
Thank you so much. All right. How are ya? Fine. How many hours did you sleep? I didn't sleep a lot of hours. You know, you're just up and seriously, so sad and true. Last night I was so awake. I thought, restore. I'll think about restore. How many words can you spell using the letters in restore? I came up with 7. I challenge you to beat me. So that was about 2 a.m. I don't know. I was awake. So I'm excited today. So we have talked last night. We're talking about the woman at the well, Sammy, and I discovered that we have a Sammy in our group, but it's a different Sammy. We're not going to be talking about her. We're talking about this Sammy in the woman at the well in John chapter 4. And last night we spent time talking about, what did we talk about? There we go. How Jesus sat at the well waiting, and how Jesus waits for us. And there are things that get in the way between us and coming to him for a restoration, for the living water, for the water that doesn't end. So when we talked about taking down those barriers, taking down those things that are going inside our head, or maybe there's scheduled things, or maybe they're even something like our phone. So any last thoughts from last evening that you pondered and you thought about, or just to recap in your own words? What'd you guys think? So if you're new today, I make you talk the whole time. So that's just part of your future, so we're starting right now. Anybody have any lasting thoughts, or you woke up thinking, wow, that was really for me, or... Right, just starting with something small, a scripture while you wash dishes, or just something really small instead of waiting until it's that perfect time to meet with the Lord. Like, oh, this is perfect. No, there's lots of ways of praying, right? Out loud, silently, one-liners, scripted ones that come out of the 11th century. Like, you can just make that your own, but just start with where you're at. Don't wait until it's that perfect thing that we talk about. One of my buzzwords in my head when people talk about devotionals or quiet times, then in my head pops up this picture that is like the perfect place, the perfect coffee, the perfect, like, no. Devotion is all about being devoted, leaning in, wanting to know more. You can do that hiking, you can do that biking, you can do that through a podcast, through music is a great way to lean in and move your heart closer to him. He's waiting for you. Thank you. Anybody else? Lasting something for tomorrow? Well, I thought that we would move around a little bit this morning, and for some of you, depending on the way you're wired and in your DNA, you're thinking, oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever on the planet. I can't wait. And others, you're like, oh no, seriously? Like, really? I'm in my chair. Like, don't make me move. So those of you who are I'm in my chair, don't make me move, just stand up. Somebody else who's on the other side of the coin will come to you, right? So what I'd like you to do is we're going to talk today about restoring our identity. The the ways that we talk about ourselves to ourselves and the way we talk about ourselves to others is really important. And we're going to look at Sammy, the woman at the well, and we're going to see today how she transforms the way she views herself to the way Christ views her. So that's the transition today. So today we all go to a place where we don't know people, right? And you probably have about 3 descriptors how you describe yourself. And really it kind of changes depending on what group you're with, right? So if I'm in Hood River and say, so just so you know, if you're in Hood River where I live, someone asks you what you do, they don't mean your profession, they mean your activity. I'm not kidding. It's just that, yeah, you know, right? It's really interesting. They don't mean, so what do you do? They don't mean nurse. They mean, do you mountain bike? Do you ski? What is it that you do, right? That is the culture. So I switch how I introduce myself depending on the group I'm in. But we're in this group this morning, and I'll give you thinkers just a moment to think about it. I want you to think of 3 descriptive words for yourself. Mine today, because Chris mentioned it, I'm going to introduce myself as speaker, kayaker, and nurse. So that would be how I might introduce myself to this group. You could introduce yourself 100 other different ways. And that's what we're going to work on today. We're going to discover that today. So go ahead and get up. Make sure your masks are on. And I want you to find somebody or 2 people and alert. If you're kind of more outgoing like me, go find the ones who are happy with their coffee just right where they are. But everybody's going to stand up and move to somebody and give them your 3 descriptors. Okay? Go. Okay, find your seat. What I love about women's groups is that you give them a small thing like, say, 3 words. So technically, we could have had 6 words total, and then people sat down. But that's not what happened, right? Oh, I forgot my mask. Hello. Isn't that interesting? Is it hard or easy? What's the hardest part about that? Standing up, walking over, making that initial contact. It's risky to put yourself out there. It's really risky to put yourself out there. And I look at what Jesus did for Sammy, the woman at the well, is it was really risky for him to sit there and talk to her. There was every reason that he should not engage with her. She was completely different than him. And yet, he did. And what I loved about I got to talk to Lauren, and if you haven't met her yet, wow, she's like, she's somebody I'd want to hang out with. It's that asking one more question that gets you into the heart of it. Like you get to discover this richness. And I've thought about people are like that. It's like a prism or it's like a diamond, is that they show you a couple angles, right? They show you the nurse or the kayaker, but really if you bring it into the light and spin it around, it's this beautiful rainbow, and it has many facets to it. It's not just what you see on the outside. It's not your first 15 seconds of impression. It's actually this richness of this beautiful diamond that the Lord has designed, and it's up to us to discover in one another what those are. You need to ask one more question. That's the art of relationship. Just ask one more question to the gas station attendant. That's always kind of my, can I make them smile by the time I leave? It's kind of like a little game that I play. Don't tell the guy at Windmaster Market. I'm after him, right? So, how was your day? Oh, that's so interesting. How often do you do that? One more question. It's sometimes in airports, people look at me and like, okay, lady, I don't know. Like, who are you? I don't care about you. I get it. Okay, nosy Nelly. But I'm truly fascinated by what the Lord has designed, and I'm looking for the diamond. I'm looking for the sparkle. I am looking for that because most often people do not see it in themselves. Is that true with you? People will see you sparkly or, hey, did you notice my new shirt, by the way? I just got this. It was on sale on my way down here. People see this, and they think, oh, she's had that a long time. No, it's brand new. I'm pretty excited about it right here. That first 15 seconds, right, isn't actually the story I told you last night, is that I started the day by crying. Right? That's another part. And really, as we ask the one more question, we become more authentic. And we find that there's safety and vulnerability as you show one more aspect of yourself. Because I am this, where I'm excited about my new shirt that I got on sale. And I am also the same woman who cried and sobbed and put a towel to her face yesterday morning. That's all me. That's all me. We are all more than people see on the outside. And the woman at the well is that woman. And Jesus just didn't see her outside story. She saw her inside story. And I'm hoping today we're going to do a little exercise this morning. Not jazzercise or anything like that. So you can, no, not that. We're going to do a little workshop-y kind of thing this morning to help. It's like a little spa treatment for yourself. To kind of remind yourself who you are so that you can appreciate you. Because the story you tell yourself, so let's restore your story. Let's restore how the Lord thinks of you instead of the things you've been saying about yourself, to yourself, right? Is anybody else crazy like me that they say things to themselves, about themselves? Come on, help me out here. Raise your hand. Yeah. that's the truth of it, is that you might be in this dialogue right here, and then you've got this little bubble over here. And I want to switch what that bubble says to you when you're in conversation with somebody else. That's kind of my hope for today. Well, I'm going to read this scripture through, and then we'll do our exercise, and then we'll tie them, exercise workshop. Gosh, you guys, stretch. No. And then we'll tie it back together. So we're in John chapter 4, and I got to remind you what verse 13 says. John chapter 4, starting in verse 13 is what we covered last night, but then we'll kind of move forward. I'll read the whole section. Jesus answered. So he's sitting with the woman at the well, and she's going up there to draw water. He said, "Will you get me a drink?" And she says, "Well, why are you talking to me? You're male, you're Jewish, you shouldn't even be here. Why are we having this conversation? Aren't you going to get in trouble?" And he said, "Hey, if you knew who I really was, like if you asked me more questions, if you looked at my diamond more carefully, you would find that I have a lot to offer. I have a lot to offer as in living water where you will never thirst." The Greek word never thirst is about the desperation of thirstiness. It's not like, it'd be so great to have one more latte. It's not that. It's this desert thirstiness, right? It's desperation thirstiness. So then they go on in 13, and he explains more. He says, everyone, and remember we talked about taking down the barriers about who's included in the welcome party, right? Taking down those barriers, everyone who drinks of this water, meaning the water at the well, and that we talked about would be like cell phones or self-image or expectations or any of those barriers, right? Anyone who drinks of this water or cooking shows, this will be thirsty again. But whoever, meaning it's welcome for everyone, who drinks the water I give them will never thirst, will never be hungry and desperate for more. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life. The woman, I hate it that they just call him, Sammy said to him, "Sir, give me this water so I won't get thirsty and have to come here to draw water." Now, most places that have to go draw water, right? You have to walk there. It's women's work and young women's work, and many countries they carry it on their head. It's a 5-gallon jug for the morning is a lot of water, and they've got to walk a couple miles depending on where their water source is. So this whole thing about drawing water occupied, really currently in 2020 in African countries, it occupies a third to half of a woman's day of carrying water for their family depending on their source. This is a real thing, she said. I don't want to carry water anymore. I just want to never be thirsty again, And so he takes this whole other tactic in verse 16. He says, "Go and call your husband and come back." Now he's going to talk to her identity. Because why is she there at noon? She's walking in shame and blame. The other women don't welcome her before sunrise. She's been voted off the island because of the way that she lives. Or maybe she voted herself off because of the way she talks about her past, her current situation, the secret sins that aren't so secret anymore. That's why she's there at noon. In 17, "I have no husband," she replied. Jesus said to her, I love Jesus' reply. He's not like, "What? You're not married? And you're living with a guy? Oh my gosh." That's not his reply. He goes, "I know. You're right. When you say you have no husband, fact is you've had 5 husbands, and the man you now have is not your husband. What you have just said is quite true. Wouldn't it be great if the hard things that people say to us, we just say, oh, okay, interesting history." As a nurse, we do intake, when they come in the hospital, and we ask, you 257 questions about your sock size and everything, right? Where do you live? What's your social security? What's your birth date? What are you allergic to? Have you ever had this? Do you take blah, 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 blah? I pretty much turn them inside out with information. And I've learned how to be unfazable. I've heard everything. The things people have told me about what they do with this thing right here, whoa! I'm just pretty unfazable now. I want our community of faith to be unfazable. People are living hard lives. It's hard out there. May we just go, okay, thanks for sharing truth with me. Thanks for being authentic. Okay, not something I've heard before. Tell me more about that. That seems interesting. How'd you get into that? You what? Okay. How do we respond like Jesus when it's completely different? It's a challenge. 19, sir, the woman said, I can see you're something special. I can see that you're a prophet. Meaning, and what she means is that you can tell the future, or you can tell what is not spoken out. You can see something that hasn't been spoken. I can see that you're something special, something spiritual. I can see that you were a prophet. Our ancestors, she goes back and identifies with her religion, which is the religion of the Samaritans, right? Our ancestors worshipped on this mountain, not on Jerusalem's mountain, but on this mountain right behind me. She's very proud of this worship mountain that she lives next to. Worshipped on this mountain, but you Jews claim that the mountain you must worship on is Jerusalem. Different mountain. She goes, we have a different way. Have you ever had a discussion about baptism or something like that, something spiritual, where you go, oh yeah, you're only really a believer if you're sprinkled. Oh yeah, you're only really a believer if you're dunked. Oh yeah, you're only really a believer. Like what? Don't argue about the mountains, right? It's the heart. It's the heart here. And 21, woman, just call her by her name, Sammy. Sammy, Jesus replied, believe me, a time is coming when you will worship the Father neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. You Samaritans worship what you do not know. We worship what we do know, for salvation is from the Jews, meaning he is standing here right now. Like, I'm introducing yourself. I'm showing you. I'm making myself known to you. I'm telling you who I am. I'm showing you the other aspects. You thought I was a thirsty guy at the well, but actually I'm more than that. Spectacular, right? He's saying, yet a time is coming and now has come. I'm sitting right here. When the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth, for they are the kind of worshipers the Father seeks. God is spirit, and his worshipers must worship in spirit and in truth. Sammy said, I know that the Messiah, called the Christ, is coming. When he comes, he's going to explain it all to me. Right now, I'm just going to stick with this mountain and this well, and I'm just going to stick with this. He'll tell me when he comes, right? Jesus declared, I, the one speaking to you, I am he. What a gift he just gave her. What a gift he gave her. We're going to unpack that a little bit, but I want to first unpack a little bit of the gift that the Lord has given you. One of my heart's call, my deep desire, I work with healthcare teams. I work all with teamwork and conflict management, and not that there's any conflict at work, right? Conflict management, team dynamic, getting teams up out of the ditch, getting them motivated again. And one of the misconceptions that is universal to all of us is to say, you're different, I don't understand you, so you must be bad. My conclusion is, I don't recognize this, so you must be wrong. But really, the truth is, when you look at Jesus, what he did with 12, he did not choose all accountants. He did not choose all educated people. He did not choose all fishermen. He did not choose all sinless. He actually chose this wide variety of people to follow him for 3 years. They basically went camping together and knew each other really well. This deep truth of different is actually quite powerful, and we need to celebrate that we are different. Because if we're all the same, seriously, if we're all the same, then you need to go, because I need to be the one. Like, if you're like me, I think, oh yeah, no. Just, I'll take care of this when you go off and play someplace else, right? The people that drive me most crazy are the most like me. Because I think, no, you're taking up my space. Like, just, I've got this figured out, right? It's a really interesting factor. The truth is, what Jesus believes is that different is good. Different is important. Every voice matters. Your perspective, your particular diamond belongs in this basket so we can all see what we all need to see. It's really important. So I'd like to do a little thing with you, and you will be back to your seat, I promise. But go ahead and set everything down right where you're at and put your mask back on. I'm going to leave mine off so I can direct you. And we're going to move around the room. And so mask up, pencils down. I'm going to ask you to move and to vote. Do you guys remember in the back of magazines, maybe they still do it now, where they ask you all those questions and you get to answer them about yourself? I love that. So that's what we're going to do, is we're going to ask you about you. And I want you to think of yourself in a particular role. And in this thing, it could be your role at work, or your role at home, or your role in your biological family. Sometimes that'll all be the same, but if you are an accountant who's homeschooling right now, you really prefer accounting rather than homeschooling. So pick that one. Pick your favorite role, right? Pick your favorite role. Think of that and answer these questions. I have 2 questions for you, and I'm going to have you move as you answer those questions. So go ahead and leave your stuff right at your place. You'll be back. So I want you all to stand up, and I want you to decide about this first question. I want you to decide if you prefer, and again, there's no wrong answer because it's just what you like. What you in your heart of hearts, not what's expected of you, but you. What do you like, right? So would you describe yourself as outgoing? That means that you speak so that you can think. So that your words come, you have 40,000 words, and then you go, oh, good, okay, that's the one I want, right? That's the idea I want. So you pull up one idea out of that. You speak so you can think. That's outgoing, right? You're not afraid to walk over and say, hey, 3 words to describe yourself, ready, go. That's you. Others of us are introspective, and you think so that you can speak. You go, let me think about that. Yeah, blue, right? You run it through this computer before it comes out your mouth. Now, my husband and I are completely opposite, and sometimes I have to remind myself that that's good too, because I'll say, hey, want to go out for dinner? Do you want to go here, 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 here? I'll give him like 4 good suggestions that would make me happy. I'm very excited about it. I've already kind of chosen what I'm going to eat at each one and what feels good and what time we would go. I've already run that computer and run it with my mouth. And they'll go, so, okay, so where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? And he goes, I'm thinking. Who knew? Who knew, right? And so then I go, oh, shoot. Married 37 years, I better just let him think. Rushing him will not get me to my goal. Zip. So, and then he'll go, seriously, 7 more seconds than I want. I want to go here. And I go, great, let's go. And off we go. That's introspective. Both are good, completely different, and marriage counseling really helps, just saying. Okay, if you're outgoing, I want you to walk and stand in the front here. And if you're introspective, I want you to walk and stand by that back table there, not all the way out in the parking lot where you want to be, but just right there where that red line is. So outgoing towards me, introspective towards the back. Okay, you got to pick today, and I'll talk about that. Thank you for bringing up. Pick one. Pick who you. Yeah. Okay. So, a couple of you said, I don't want to pick. I want to be in the middle. I'm making you pick because I'm in charge today. I'm wearing the microphone and I'm outgoing. But the truth of it is, we are all of it, right? We surf all the time. Like, we'll walk into, like, in my regular life, if there's a meeting, I'm usually in charge of the meeting. I know that's going to shock you. But in my family of origin, there are other voices in my family that are much more powerful than mine. Scary, I know. So I go, oh, I'll be in charge Thanksgiving or on this vacation. Oh, nope. And I have to move and adjust. But I want to help you find today where you fit and fly and have your most fun. So all of us can be all things. In fact, we do this all day long, depending on who you're with, right? You morph, and the more mature you are, the more you are able to slide pretty smoothly in that. But find your part that you just like, I love that. That's just like my favorite part. So I'm going to ask you a second question. I want you guys to stay in the back. Okay, and then I want you guys to stay in the back and you guys to stay in the front. And I want you to ask another question. Does a good day when you go, oh, that was sweet, have to do with like a list that you got to check off? Like you just said, okay, this morning I'm going to do the grocery store, I'm going to exercise, I'm going to exercise, or really I'm going to exercise, not just wear my exercise outfit. Where you make a list, right? And then at the end of the day, you got ticks by most of it. If that is a preference for task, where like just getting that cleaned off, you have a clean desk, it's organized, you always can find your keys and your glasses, that kind of thing. If that's you, think about that. That's task preference. If a good day for the rest of you is people, and it could be big people, having a microphone and talking to large groups of people really energizes me. And some of you would say, oh yeah, no, you'd have to just die before you did what I do. It energizes me. Or the other way of people is that, like at a party, your best moment is where you've had one deep conversation with one person, and you go home and share the story, and I would say, oh yeah, we all sang together. You know, that would be my story. My husband's story would be, oh, I had this great conversation with so-and-so, and we talked for the whole 2 hours. I really didn't talk to anybody else, but that one conversation was it. So people can be big groups or small groups. So if you're a task preference person, I want you to move over to this side of the room, stay in your little quadrant. And if you're a people, I want you to move over to this quadrant. And if you don't know, just decide what you want today. Do you feel like talking to people today? Is that a joy for you? Or do you feel like taking notes today? Take notes. Right? Okay. So we really have 4 squares here. Okay, so in your mind, outgoing task, folks, your letter is D. Okay, remember that. Outgoing people are I. Okay? Introspective, thoughtful, one-on-one people are S. Introspective, task people are C's. Okay, remember your letters, sit down and I'll explain it. This is like a spa treatment for yourself. I love stuff like this. This is called, it's not a tool I made up. This is called the disc. The disc. And if you, especially the C's, the task, oh, let me write this on here for you. Outgoing, introspective, task, people. Now, for those of you who have a high value to say, I'm in between, on your little diagram, on the notes you're taking, just put your dot where you think you live. You know, like, I live close to this line. Myself, I live close in here, probably a little bit over here. I mean, if I were to draw a line for myself, I stand in D and I can lean to I. You know, this is kind of where I live. You can put a little, where are you in this blend? For the C's, there are free online tests that score you, and I know that's important, that you could have a numerical validation for what this is. This is just who you are. You're like, is this really true? Can I measure it? Yes, and it's free. Just go online disc temperament survey, right there. The point in biblical sense is that you can see in this room that there are at least 4 different, if you use a temperament tool like the Enneagram, they break it up into 9. It's hard to teach 9, but in a disc, there's at least 4 big categories of difference. And it's really in all of us that there's enough to do. There's enough to celebrate. But I tell you, the people that drive me craziest are the people who are most like me, or the people who are most unlike me and I don't get you. Like, I think, what? No. Like, that's not possible. Excel spreadsheet? No. You know, I have the least amount of C. But I've learned to say is that we are better together. We have more power in Christianity. We have more power in an office setting. We have more power on a nursing unit when we recognize we can't do it without the other folks. So when someone annoys you because they're different, you need to turn that script over like Christ turned it for Sammy or woman at the well. You need to turn that over and say, you're valuable. I don't get you. You're completely different than me, but there's something in you. Let me spin that diamond. Let me say that again. When someone is different from you or is annoying you, or maybe you're annoying yourself, been there 1,000 times, spin the diamond because there is something beautiful in there. You're just not seeing it. Ask the next question, like Jesus did. So where's your husband? Well, I don't have a husband. Well, I know that's true. For us, we won't know it's true, or maybe you will know it's true. I live in a small town. Sometimes I kind of know it's true. Ask the next question. Spin the diamond. There is something beautiful in there that you cannot see or you don't appreciate because they're different. We talked about all those barriers are different. Why do you think different scares us? Why do you think it could be temperament, it could be gender, it could be background, it could be education, it could be anything, right? Why does turn to your neighbor? Why does different scare you? Or maybe it doesn't. Turn to your neighbor, and if you don't have a neighbor, you're going to have to stand up and find a neighbor. So can you grab the person behind you? Yeah, just stand up so you're 3. Or the question is, why does different scare us? Why do we step back when something or someone's different? Okay, what do you guys think? Why is different scary? It's unknown. I don't know you. I don't know how to measure it. I don't know. I don't recognize it. There's nothing in my background. You don't look like anybody I went to kindergarten with. Like, what? I don't. What else? Okay, so actually, different is interesting. And then why don't you go over the barriers? Think of your scariest people group. We talked yesterday about biases. Think of your personal scariest people group. Why don't you go over that barrier and discover what prevents you? Might not be appropriate. Right? It might, yeah, I like that. Good. What else when we hit different? Right. This whole piece of like, say, like in this event, there were people who did the food, there were people who set up the chairs, there are people who printed the really cute notepad that I'm taking my home. There's people that made me a fresh name tag, love that. There's people who talk to me. There's, it takes many hands, right? Creative hands and data hands and all these hands. But if you ask me to do one task, I might fail at it. If you ask me to do registration, I would fail at it because, as you know, I don't spell, I don't do Excel spreadsheets. I already told you that. Right? That takes this skill down here, right? It's a skill. So, but if you're introspective, you think, oh, they don't need my skill. Oh, yes, we do. I don't have the skill. Please come and play. So I'm afraid of failure, so I might be miscast. It'd be like having Harrison Ford in a musical. Okay, so you go, you're good at some things. Indiana Jones, really appreciate his work there. Han Solo, musical, not so much. Right, so that would be like, it's not his humanness that's the failure, it's actually the miscast. So sometimes when you feel like you're a failure, you are someone who's doing something where it doesn't fit, right? When you're asked to do something by yourself and you're energized by lots of people, right? When you just go, oh, could you one-on-one this? Can you be a personal counselor and meet with 8 people every day one-on-one? No, I could greet people at Walmart. That would be great. I need the 100 hits, right? That kind of thing. What else makes different inner mind bad? Okay, you guys, we're going to flip the switch on this, right? So we have this fear that you are going to reject me. That as I reveal my diamond, you're going to say, don't like blue. Turn, no, not here. Has that ever happened to you? Raise your hand if that's ever happened to you. I'm asking everyone to raise your hand. Look around. This is the human condition. This is what I'm training you today about. May this never be us. That we say, you're different. You scare me, and I don't want it. When I was in 3rd grade, I grew up I went to kindergarten with the same people. I went to nursing school with one classmate who I went through every single school with. How cool is that, right? So So I know people all the way through school. In third grade, I had known this girl for 4 years. Girls are so mean. She and this other girl decided that I was no longer going to be allowed to play on the playground. Tetherball was the hot thing. So I wasn't going to be included in tetherball. I wasn't going to be included in any birthday party. I wasn't going to be included in anything. It's particularly hurtful. Our parents were best friends, and so our family still got together, and I was still voted off the island. This whole piece of rejection has stuck with me my whole life. From a bully in third grade, who I'm friends with now, by the way, she's awesome. Human factors say, I don't understand you, I'm jealous of you, you're different. We heard last night, you scare me because you have it together. You scare me because you don't have it together. So, like, who doesn't scare you? This human factor of what we do to one another is not a biblical concept. So I want to say to each one of you who had a bully in their life, or maybe has a bully in their life now, I'm sorry. That's not God's heart for you. Today we're going to rewrite that story because you're a beautiful diamond. You're worthy of attention and love. There are little aspects of you that could use some polish for sure, or maybe have some black spots on it. But it's out of our story of hurt that I'm telling you this story today to move you past your story of hurt. Because I was hurt, I know what it feels. So I can talk to you about your hurt. But it's a human condition that we've been rejected. It's a big fear of ours, and that's why we hold back and we point fingers. But really what we want to say is that we are all fearfully and wonderfully made. So turn to Psalm 139. 139, I'll tell you what got me out of the ditch of this idea. 139 is this psalm that David wrote, and you might have thought that David had it all together, but actually he was the youngest of a bunch of brothers, and he, when the prophet Samuel came to his house, and the prophet Samuel said to his dad, hey, bring all your sons in, because one of them I want to anoint king. He didn't get invited in. Wow. David was out doing the sheep while all of his brothers came before the main worship leader of the whole nation. His dad didn't even pick him. Wow. But you know what? Made him a great king. Because he was willing to pick anyone, even if they weren't shiny on the first. His band of 30 was like ragtag, and they changed the world. After that happened to me in third grade, thankfully my mother noticed, and she became my companion. And I did have one friend, Toby Weaver. I'll forever love her. I had one friend. It was a long year, just saying. By sixth grade, it took me about 3 years to heal in a big way, and of course I can still feel those emotions, is that I became the team leader, and I still am the team leader, that when you line up like in PE and you pick sides, and it's my turn to pick, I of course pick that person that, does the skill the best. I pick them first. But the second person I picked is the person who never gets picked. 100% of the time, I go and look for the lost sheep who's never been chosen for anything. Why? Because that was me. And I want to make somebody's day. I want to say, I see you, I value you, you have something to offer, and you can't see it yet, and frankly, I can't see it yet, but we're going to discover it together. You guys, that's our job as women who are Christ followers. Our job is to go out and look for the diamonds. And you need to know that the bubble above their head has everything to do, like this woman said, it says, I'm not religious enough. I'm not worthy enough. I'm sleeping around. I'm not. I want to be the sister in Christ that says, wow, tell me more about that. And you look for the diamond. You just keep spinning it until you see something shiny. Everybody has something shiny that's unique and special about them. Some it takes a while. Those adolescents, if you have adolescents in your home right now, whoo, that's like 2 or 3 years. Like, study the diamond, study the diamond, study the diamond. Pull out the photo. There's where it was. I wonder if it's still there, right? Some people are hard to see because of the space they're in. Here's a little nugget of truth. Bad behavior equals hurt heart. So if someone in your work, someone in your home, someone in your life has bad behavior, you know what I mean, right? They're like, I don't want to play, you're mean, so they're mean, or they're a bully, or they're pulling out, or they're going off-road doing the stuff that you hope nobody ever does to their body or their brains or whatever. Bad behavior equals hurt heart. May we be a people like Jesus at the woman of the well to say, tell me more about yourself. Let me find where your heart hurts. Where did this woman's heart hurt? Remember her story? What did he ask her? What did he ask? Oh, flipping back. What did he ask her in verse 16? John chapter 4, verse 16. What do you want to know? It's kind of a random question. Where's your husband? Is it because he didn't know? Right. Why did he ask her about it? Why did he ask that next question? This story right here is that he says, where is your husband? And she said, not married. I'm here at the well to get water for my family, but my family isn't actually, no ring, right? He wants her to say it because he wants her to demonstrate to her, doesn't matter to me, let's just keep hanging out. It's okay. It's okay with me. In fact, I know your whole story. I know you've had 5 husbands and probably a lot on the side. I don't care. It's not that Jesus doesn't care about what she's doing with her life and her body. It's that it's not a barrier to him in relationship. You guys, we all have stuff. We all have stuff. And the longer that you're together in relationship, the more people know your stuff. I'm not afraid to say most of my stuff. I don't tell all my stuff to everyone. But I have a circle of friends who know 99% of my stuff. You'd be shocked about what my stuff is. You'd be shocked. I have a friend, Rhonda, that I speak with a lot, and she's very upfront about her stuff. And so she won't mind me sharing about her stuff because she does all the time. It's her tool of ministry, but she's done everything. She's had an affair with her teacher. She's slept around, got pregnant, had to drop out of school. She's done everything. But it's out of that voice that the Lord has made her a powerful woman of God because she has his story. And people go, well, if God can use you, God can use me. This woman, he asked her and say, what's your stuff? She goes, well, I'm not married. He goes, I know. Everybody's got stuff. It's what you do with your stuff. And then she says, well, at least I'm religious. I'm religious. I'm religious. I got the mountain. I got the well. I've got the hope in the Messiah. He's coming. He's going to explain it all. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. 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 And then he gives her the biggest gift, maybe that the Lord has given women, our gender, some really big gifts. This is a huge gift. He says, well, I am he. I'm the Messiah. I'm the one who can tell you and explain and unpack for you what relationship means. Religion is where you meet, and you go to this mountain, I go to that mountain, but really what the Lord wants, what does the Lord say in A Time Is Coming? Verse 21. What time does he say is coming? So it doesn't matter if you've slept around. It doesn't matter to me. What's also not going to matter? Where you worship. Okay, that might be shocking and a little bit of heresy right there, like for some of you that feel like worship has to look like this. I've been all over the world and worship. It's just some of the most worshipful spots had a palapa and a drums and a different language, right? That was it. Haiti. Like it was, it was hot. There was 15 of us under a tree and drums. That was it. Incredible. Worship isn't about a building. Worship isn't about dunking, sprinkling. That's part of your tradition piece. But let's get to the heart of it. Worship, adoration is relationship with Jesus. And relationship with Jesus doesn't matter. You don't have to be a certain thing that you think is shiny and pretty. You just need to be you. He's inviting you. Take a minute and write down how that impacts you. Or maybe it doesn't, and you can just take a moment. Today I want to give you an opportunity to rewrite the story, right? To restore the story that you've been telling yourself about yourself. Because it isn't, I'm different. Of course you are. Of course you are. I don't belong. Of course you do. We're not the same without you. So it's not that, even though you got told that, or you interpreted that, or you wore that for years. That's not the story Jesus sees in you. Jesus says, no matter what your story, I want to restore you to relationship. It's not through religion. It's not on one mountain. It's in spirit and in truth. And as you come to the authenticity of who you actually are, the closer you'll get to Jesus. The more honest you are to say, wow, Lord's made me this way, and it's really exciting, and I have some other things to polish, and here's the list of 5 that I know about today, and then they change, and I work on some more stuff, right? Psalm 139 really brought me from this place from thinking there was something wrong with me because I was different, that there was something wrong because people criticized my differentness. Even my curly hair, it used to be like kind of an afro curls, and thankfully I grew up in the 70s, so that worked, But even that, I wasn't satisfied with my hair because it wasn't the straight, long fashion, where you got to flip it back. We all feel that about ourselves or about our profession or about, oh, I'm just a mom, or oh, I'm just something. No. Take the word just out. Because you're beautiful. You're special, you're unique, you're one of a kind. Out of coal, diamonds are made, and you might have little coal spots on sides, okay? Psalm 139 was my key to, in counseling, was my key to come out of that is to realize that in Psalm 139, starts in verse 1, you have searched me, O Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit down and when I rise, you perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You're familiar with all my ways. True relationship, my very best friends on earth, and my relationship with the Lord is the realization that you are fully known and fully loved. Fully known and fully loved. And that's what the Lord was doing when he asked the woman, well, where's your husband? He wanted to say, you're fully known and fully loved. He wanted her to say it out loud so she could operate in truth about herself, about her history, about where she blew it before, right? So that she could be fully known and fully loved. What parts of yourself do you have hidden away that prevent you from being fully known and fully loved? Now, granted, you don't want to open that up like on Facebook or something like that, right? Jesus had this model of friendship. He had one bestie, right? He had one, then he had 3 really, really, really close friends, went with him almost everywhere. Then he had 12 great friends, and then he had many friends. This whole part about where you put that intimate information, there's wisdom in that, right? Not everybody knows everything about me, but I'm pretty transparent because I think, well, you're going to know it in heaven anyway. I might as well just tell you now. But fully known and fully loved is the message that we want to say to ourselves about ourselves. Yeah, I am that. Yeah, I did that. But that was then, and today is now. Do you realize that when you walked in the door, that's already in the past? Will you let it pass? Some of us need to touch it and hold it and think about it. And that's what this woman lived her past and then kept repeating it because she was living her past. And then she'd live her past and then she'd live it again and she'd touch it again. And, that repeat. You repeat what you touch, right? You move on from where you put your gaze. When the Lord calls her out and he's at the well and he says, look at me, where's your husband? I don't have a husband. Yeah, I know. Thank you for telling me the truth. In fact, I'm the one who can tell you more. That's where your gaze needs to be on your future. Informed by your past, transformed by where you seek your gaze. Informed, like, ooh, not going to do that again. That didn't work out so well. Informed. Leave it as information. But transformed from where you put your gaze. She could have sat there and said, well, none of the women like me. I think it was true. She was there at noon with her water, right? I'm poor. This man won't marry me. She could have had a whole list of stuff that wasn't right with her. But actually, he raised her face to him and said, well, I'm he. If you come to me, your identity will be restored because I don't see that the way you see it. I see it as fresh and new. Will you give yourself the grace that Jesus has given you? Will you allow yourself to be remade in your image that aligns with your deep desires? So I want you to write down 3 words. Like if you're this woman, she could have written down adulterer, rejected by women, and poor or something. But really, what are the 3 words that Jesus might write about her? How does he see her? Full of potential, right? Future evangelist, right? Redeemed. Like, he could write a whole bunch of different words about her. She doesn't see it yet. It might not even be true yet until tomorrow. I want you to write 3 of those words as your identifier. How would you identify yourself the way Jesus identifies you? What does he see in you? Where's the diamond? Where do you sparkle? Where's your hidden sweet spot? Write that down. Some of you honestly are in a place where you can't think of 3, think of 1. Think of 1 descriptor. What's the one great thing that Jesus would say to you if you walked up to him at the well? Hard or easy? Hard or easy? It's actually quite hard, isn't it? We've got those old stories like bronzed with photos and data files back 5 years. If you leave that Velcro on your life, other things will stick to it. So if you got hurt as a kid and you had to defend yourself, and that's your story, right? If that's your story that you live out of, then you will be self-protecting in every job you ever know, right? But that's not how the Lord sees you. The Lord sees you worthy of protection, that he came to die for you so that you could be free, that you could be confident in the beautiful soul you are. Hard or easy? Romans 12:2 says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Philippians 4 says, think then on these things, what is true and honorable, and he has a whole list, good. The renewing of your mind will begin the renewing of your body. Begin to rewrite the story that you tell yourself about yourself, so that you recognize that the very story that you've been given by the stuff that you got into, the stuff that happened to you, the stuff that just is human, that you can be transformed, and then when we next meet together, we're going to recognize that it's out of that story that you transform others. But this whole identity reboot is yours today. So as we break, I would love to leave this room quiet and that room noisy. So if you go, oh, that was great, and go out and, chit-chat, that's awesome. If you need a little bit more introspective time so you can say, Lord, rewrite my story I tell myself about myself. Or if you want prayer, I'll pray for you. Let's leave this room quiet. And we're going to break for a half an hour, right, Chris? Yeah. We're going to break for a half an hour. It's 10 till a little bit more, but let's give this room quiet, that room just have at it. But take time to rewrite your story. This is your one moment. Life is really super busy. All right, you're dismissed.